Hello, I am the gaming superhero, and today I am making a kit for the original Marvel Muscle Mommy. That was not made, the first one added to rival with, for some reason, She-Hulk. And it is crazy to me just how many muscular women have been added to the game over the course of 1 year, and none of them were She-Hulk. Crazy. Look, it's not like the characters they did add as big, strong women were bad choices. Honestly, the most unusual pick might be Emma Frost, but still not entirely random. I guess just strange that she was the first. I guess I just lament the fact that if or when she comes to the game, she will no longer be special and just be formulaic or normal. Or to at least increase the odds that they choose the overly muscular She-Hulk design that borders on being indiscernible from regular Hulk, just to like make her muscles more prominent. There is definitely a balance to be reached with She-Hulk muscle mass, and I just hope they don't screw it up. And for the shout-out, we have nobody. Nobody has guessed it correctly this week, unfortunately. A lot of guesses for White Fox this week, which is interesting. I could have sworn in the Black Cat video I said I wasn't doing a White Fox video, but I mean, to be fair, I could have been lying. It's not unlike me to do something like that, but I wasn't. So, yeah, no correct guesses for She-Hulk this week. Very sad. But let's get on to the origin. Jennifer Walters, aka She-Hulk, first appeared in Savage She-Hulk #1, her own comic. It was mostly to avoid DC from stealing the name, but whatever, it worked out in the end. We open on Banner entering Jen's office with a little jab at the Hulk TV show with a list of names Banner has used, because I guess the name Bruce was too gay for television at that time. The cousins reunite, and Banner confides in Jen about being on the run and turning into a jolly green monster, recapping his origin, for all the Hulk fans who forgot, I guess. Why do I feel like Hulk's origin is like the most to be reiterated in comics? I feel like every time he shows up in someone else's book, they fully recap his origin for whatever reason. They also subtly drop the totally irrelevant information that Banner originally studied medicine before switching to nuclear physics. This will not be relevant, I'm sure. Also, I don't usually reference the ads in the books because they are totally irrelevant, and I read these on like the digital marketplaces, so they are usually cut out. But this one still has them, and one, there is an ad like every 3 pages, and it is relentless. And 2, the very first page, immediately after the cover, like you open the cover, and first page is a child with a gun, followed by the second ad, like 3 pages later, about gum fighting. GUM fighting, which I'm sure hasn't caused confusion with the very phonetically similar alternative. Not at all. Anyway, a lot of tangents in this video. The two then drive to Jen's house, where she is then shot by some mobsters trying to silence her because of a case she is working on. Luckily, Banner is able to save his cousin by using a hose to blast the bad guys away, getting the idea from the police. And I will remind you that this comic came out in 1979. And I'm just going to leave it there. Bruce, desperate to save his cousin, breaks into the home of a doctor who conveniently lives next door by breaking and entering and giving Jen a blood transfusion. He then calls for the proper authorities to help her further. However, this gets him questioned by the cops, which stresses him out to the point of turning into the Hulk. Banner then flees without saying goodbye. And of course, the goons who tried to kill Jen go for a second attempt. But this time, she transforms into the mighty She-Hulk. She chases her would-be assassins down, feeling the power of the Hulk and loving it. She catches the mobsters and gets them to confess to their crimes in front of some police officers, who let her go on account there being no laws against, being green or having green skin. There is, however, a law against ripping a streetlight out of the ground and lobbing it at a moving vehicle, but whatever. Dude probably just didn't want to try and arrest the 8-foot-tall woman made of pure muscle. Jen sneaks back into the hospital to maintain her secret identity, because the guy she was chasing couldn't put 2 and 2 together, I guess, when they were trying to kill her and she turned into the giant green woman. They talked to her like she was a different person. So, I don't know what happened there. We're just going to toss it up to head trauma. But that is where this issue ends, and it was pretty good. Nice and simple. Interesting, because while Hulk is alluded to, he never actually shows up outside of flashbacks, which is interesting. There might also be something to be said about Bruce basically being the main character of this She-Hulk introduction, for like 2/3 of it, which isn't great, especially after the Black Cat first appearance was able to basically make her the main character despite being the antagonist of that story, but whatever. I'm sure it gets better in this run. Plus, this was really hoping to use the Hulk's popularity to sell this, so I guess it was unavoidable. Let's get on to the kit. I have made the Emerald Giantess a tank. I went back and forth whether to make her a duelist to differentiate her from the Hulk, but it was futile. She could only be a tank. Her primary is a standard melee combo, obviously. A melee hero, nothing crazy here. I gave her a movement ability that is a bits of a modified version of the Hulk's, where she can charge up and leap into the air and forward. But she can choose to halt the leap to drop down immediately, dealing damage to enemies near the impact. Dropping down like a gamma bomb. Imagine her doing that one move that Robin does in that Teen Titans clip, where he like drops on someone with both his knees. Like that move. I've also given her a passive that powers up her primary attack whenever nearby allies take damage or she blocks damage with her method of blocking that will be laid out later in the video. This passive runs on a meter, with her doing more damage the more it is filled, and when the meter is completely full, she and nearby allies gain a large amount of bonus health. This is going to set the tone for her kit as more of a utility tank that can still dive and fight with the team. Ability 1 is Defense Attorney. Leap to an ally, giving them bonus health and sticking to them for a few seconds, or jumping to the next enemy that attacks either you or the ally you are attached to. She-Hulk also gains increased attack speed after jumping to the enemy to really rip into them. Very defensive ability for a tank that isn't just a shield or barrier. This also makes her very mobile, maybe the most mobile tank that isn't Angela, who just flies everywhere. Because between this and her actual movement ability, she can just jump everywhere, like a frog. This ability can backfire if the enemy that next hits you is like a sniper and is super far back and causes you to overextend. Well, then, gets forced into the back line. But she can use her own movement ability to get out if that happens. So it's not like a huge deal, but that is a concern. Ability 2 is called Rocking It. Pull a big rock out of the ground and you can do one of two things with it. Use it to block damage and build up that passive meter mentioned earlier, or you can just throw the rock, dealing damage and knockback. It will also ground any flying enemies it hits for a few seconds. Her only ranged option that isn't her just jumping at the enemy that requires some decision making on which you want either to block damage and build your passive or throw a big rock to disrupt the enemy. The rock, when used as a shield, does have a limited amount of health, and in a game where the damage output is so high, it might not be worth trying to use it to block, given how long the other barriers last, but that just comes down to how much health you give the rock. It is also worth saying you can block with the rock for a little bit and then throw it later, so it's not a complete either or. The ultimate is Gamma Release, creating an area that gives all allies in it bonus health and damage resistance, while slowing enemies within the field. A simple area of effect tank ult that borders on being a support ult, with the only difference being this does not actively heal the allies. She-Hulk herself also gets her passive automatically put to max, giving her a damage boost while ulting. The bonus health aspect becomes redundant, but it's not a huge issue. This one is also made different, though she can still use all her other abilities while in the ult form. This just acts as a team buff without skipping a beat. A simple ult. It was really difficult thinking of an ult for She-Hulk, given you can't just reuse the Hulk's ultimate for multiple reasons, one of which is the fact I don't really like the whole monster She-Hulk concept, as it tends to make her being a more mentally stable Hulk redundant, but But utilizing gamma energy was something I hadn't really done in the kit yet, so I think it fits well and was, gonna need to happen eventually. I've also given her a team-up with her cousin. It is called Radioactive Cousins. Hulk is the anchor and changes She-Hulk's passive. Now when the passive reaches max, it will give She-Hulk and nearby allies each a personal barrier that lasts for a few seconds, similar to Hulk's, barrier ability. Essentially turning She-Hulk's passive into Hulk's shielding ability, making it a little stronger as the barriers totally block damage, whereas the bonus health will just increase the health pool, which is pointless to any major damage sources like Iron Man or Scarlet Witch ult, and other similar one-shot abilities, but a barrier can negate them entirely. The ultimate is not affected by this. It still only gives people bonus health. I do think it might be interesting if She-Hulk herself gets a barrier when ulting as a consequence of the team up and passive interaction. The barrier can obviously be destroyed eventually, so she doesn't just become invincible while ulting. But that is how I would add the first comic character to break the fourth wall to Marvel Rivals. Very interesting kit to make because, extra care had to be taken to make sure she wasn't too similar to Hulk. This kit also got an early pass over by the editor because this is one of his most anticipated characters for the game, and he was very satisfied with it. Well, beside the passive, which I had to adjust slightly, so I know he is very satisfied with this kit. Overall, I think this would be a very engaging tank design that has a nice balance of being able to play the game and support your team, and not being stuck picking between one or the other, because that has tended to be a recurring problem with the tanks. Having fun on a tank can very often mean neglecting your team, and vice versa, but I'm sure that is a personal thing, and there are plenty of people that have fun sitting in the same place holding a shield for an extended period of time. I am shocked this character has not already shown up. It hasn't even been leaked or teased yet, which is crazy to me. In general, I think there's a pretty severe X-Men bias, given there are only like 2 seasons released so far that haven't featured at least one X-Man, causing the rest of the Marvel Universe to be neglected a little bit, despite the actual launch roster of the game being fairly balanced with characters from all corners of the universe, but post-launch has been really disappointing in that regard. Especially since at this point, the addition of any X-Men is diminished by the frequency, so people become less and less excited, and now treat every inclusion as expected. But people would be really excited for She-Hulk. Hopefully we see a shift, given this year is the road to Doomsday, so maybe more of an Avengers focus, which can reach further around the universe, given all types of characters that have been on the team. Let me know what you think of this kit, and how excited you are for her to be added, because I'm sure it will happen eventually. Tell me what skins you want to see her wear. There are a lot of good options for this character, so make sure to make your voices heard. Let me know what characters you want to see me make kits for in the future. Subscribe for the big 500 subscriber special. Like the video. Join the Discord. And, you're welcome for...
Some things in here are just too hot for you to handle.
Let me smash. Please.